Is Iran's proxy quietly preparing for another October 7-style attack on Israel as warning signs begin to emerge along the border? Israeli troops stationed near the border are sounding the alarm over reported Hamas gunmen and explosive activity, raising fears that militants could be preparing for something far bigger. Some IDF soldiers say the situation feels disturbingly similar to October 6th, the day before the devastating Hamas attack, sending a chilling warning across Israel's security establishment. Could Israel's October 7th nightmare be returning, with Hamas allegedly constantly testing the IDF's defenses and probing for weaknesses along the border? Israeli surveillance soldiers have reportedly spotted armed militants and explosives in Gaza, fueling concerns that Hamas may be rebuilding its capabilities under the cover of ongoing conflict. For some Israeli soldiers, the warning signs are becoming painfully familiar, prompting a frightening question. What if nothing is different this time from the days before October 7th? For Benjamin Netanyahu, the emerging warnings could represent a dangerous déjà vu moment, raising the question of whether Israel will act before the threat grows, or risk overlooking the signs once again. As Hamas allegedly tests Israel's response and works to rebuild its capabilities, could Iran's proxy be preparing the ground for another major attack? Israeli troops stationed along the Gaza border are warning of fresh armed activity inside the Strip, raising new concerns about possible preparations for further attacks. The soldiers say they have observed gunmen operating in the area, while also reporting that explosives are being placed near the so-called Yellow Line, increasing fears of renewed violence. The Yellow Line divides areas of Gaza that are under Israeli control from those controlled by Hamas, making the reported activity particularly sensitive for troops stationed nearby. Some Israeli soldiers say the situation feels eerily similar to the period leading up to the October 7, 2023, Hamas-led attack, when warning signs were reportedly building before the assault began. Before the 2023 attack, Israeli surveillance troops had warned their superiors about Hamas training and preparations that appeared to be connected to a potential large-scale assault. Israeli surveillance soldiers had also reported suspicious Hamas movements and explosive-related activity, describing developments that they believed could indicate preparations for an imminent attack. According to a report by the Times of Israel, many of those warnings were not acted upon in time, raising questions about how seriously the intelligence was treated before the October 7th attack. Now, Israeli soldiers fear that their latest alerts about Hamas activity could once again be ignored, potentially allowing warning signs to go unaddressed until it is too late. One of Israel's surveillance soldiers said, and I quote, "I feel just like on October 6th. What's the difference? That we're identifying it on the Yellow Line and not on the border fence. That's the difference. We're really seeing that they know we won't fire on them. The Gazans aren't idiots. In the end, they're constantly testing us and seeing if we react or not. It's just like before October 7th. Feel a little unnecessary. If I know that, in any case, they won't do anything with my identification of terror activity, what's the point of my sitting 8 hours a day and monitoring the area super closely?" Unquote. One Israeli surveillance soldier said she feels helpless while watching what she describes as suspected terrorist activity taking place across the border, with concerns growing that the reported movements could pose a serious threat. Another soldier said the troops can feel unnecessary when the information they identify and report does not appear to result in immediate action, leaving them questioning whether their warnings are being taken seriously. The soldiers say Israeli combat troops are positioned only hundreds of meters away from suspected operatives, meaning any escalation or armed activity could potentially place frontline forces in immediate danger. One surveillance soldier warned that those combat troops could be exposed to serious risks if Israel fails to respond to the reported activity, particularly if the intelligence being gathered is not quickly translated into action. The report comes as US-backed efforts continue to push for Hamas to disarm in Gaza, adding another layer of tension to an already fragile security situation and raising questions about the prospects for lasting calm. Amid the ongoing war with Israel, Hamas has said it will take part in the Palestinian legislative election scheduled for November, seeking to re-enter a formal electoral process after 2 decades without a nationwide parliamentary vote. The group plans to run within the broadest possible national coalition, according to Hamas Political Bureau member Hassan Badran, who said the movement is holding discussions with multiple Palestinian factions to form a unified electoral bloc. The legislative election is set for November 28th and, if it proceeds, would become the first Palestinian legislative poll in 20 years, with voting planned across Gaza, the West Bank, and East Jerusalem. Hamas won the last Palestinian legislative election in January 2006, taking 74 seats and defeating its rival Fatah in a result that transformed Palestinian politics and was followed by the Hamas-Fatah split. Notably, Hamas opposes political conditions for election participation, rejecting requirements that parties adopt a specific political program or accept preset ideological commitments in order to stand for office. Badran called the planned vote a historic opportunity for political change, arguing that a broadly representative legislative council could restore legitimacy and give Palestinians a renewed role in shaping their political future. The Hamas Political Bureau member said the election could end 2 decades of unilateral decision-making, referring to the prolonged absence of an elected legislature and the dominance of Palestinian Authority institutions under President Mahmoud Abbas. Badran also acknowledged that the elections do not yet have full national consensus, highlighting the continuing disagreements among Palestinian factions over conditions, representation, and the political framework for the vote. Hamas said Jerusalem and the Al-Aqsa mosque compound remain central priorities, placing the holy site at the heart of its political messaging ahead of the planned Palestinian legislative elections. Hamas official Hussam Badran described Al-Aqsa as the core of the conflict with Israel, reflecting the site's immense religious and national importance for Palestinians and the wider Muslim world. Al-Aqsa is located within Jerusalem's Temple Mount, also known to Muslims as Haram al-Sharif, while the mount is Judaism's holiest site because it is revered as the location of the first and second temples. The Jordanian Islamic Waqf administers the compound's day-to-day religious affairs under the long-standing status quo, while Israel controls access and maintains overall security around and within the site. Non-Muslims may visit the compound during designated hours, but under the official status quo they are not permitted to pray or conduct religious rites there, while Muslim worship is allowed. Hamas has accused Israel of attempting to change the status quo at the site, an allegation Israel rejects while stating that its official policy remains to preserve existing arrangements. The claims come amid rising tensions over Jewish prayer at the compound, with Jordan and other Muslim-majority states warning that any perceived change to long-standing access and worship rules could trigger broader unrest. Donald Trump's push for a lasting peace agreement in Gaza is facing a major obstacle from within the Palestinian enclave, as divisions over Hamas weapons remain a key challenge to any potential ceasefire. A Gaza militia leader has said that Hamas would not agree to hand over its weapons as part of a ceasefire arrangement, highlighting one of the most difficult issues surrounding efforts to end the fighting. Hussam al-Astal commands an Israeli-backed militia that is fighting against Hamas in southern Gaza, positioning his group as one of the armed factions opposing the Palestinian organization. The Gaza militia, named Strike Force Against Terror, operates in the Khan Yunis area with reported Israeli logistical and military support, giving the group a role in the wider struggle for influence and control inside the enclave. Al-Astal told the Times of Israel that Hamas would never agree to give up its weapons, a position that could complicate efforts to secure a ceasefire framework requiring the group to disarm. The Gaza militia commander said, and I quote, "I don't think the agreement will go through. Hamas will not hand over the weapons it possesses. I hope there will be a ceasefire agreement, but without Hamas. Hamas will not agree to this. Hamas knows that if it hands over its weapons, it will no longer be in power." Unquote. The statement highlights the central obstacle facing any long-term peace agreement in Gaza, with the question of Hamas weapons remaining at the heart of negotiations over the enclave's future. Israel has made the disarmament of Hamas a key condition for moving toward long-term reconstruction, arguing that lasting security must be established before major rebuilding efforts can proceed. Moreover, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has rejected Trump's 15-point peace plan for Gaza, signaling continued differences over how the conflict should ultimately be brought to an end. Netanyahu has stated that there will be no military withdrawal until Hamas is genuinely disarmed, reinforcing Israel's position that removing the group's weapons remains essential to any future military pullback.
Upgrade your news experience with the all-new HT app. Download now.